Special counsel Robert Mueller has released his sentencing guideline memo for Mike Flynn, who pleaded guilty to lying to the FBI about a year ago. The most important thing coming out of the sentencing memo is what he thinks the sentence should be. And he's pretty clear. The special counsel praised Flynn's assistance to their investigations as substantial, writing that a sentence that does not impose a term of incarceration for him would be appropriate and warranted. So he's effectively saying that it would be perfectly fine for the judge to sentence him to no time whatsoever, which I don't think people were necessarily expecting. And he could have spent quite a bit of time in jail, actually. The crime of giving false statements to the FBI carries a maximum sentence of 5 years in prison and a maximum fine of $250,000. Though federal sentencing guidelines call for Flynn to face much less, between 0 and 6 months in prison and a fine of up to $9,500. Mueller, in that same section of the memo, cited Flynn's exemplary career in the military and public service when recommending a sentence at the low end of the guidelines range. So effectively, if the judge listens to Mueller, and there's some reason to believe that he will or she will, Flynn might not spend any time in prison. Now, to the assistance, what form did that assistance come in? Well, Mueller said that he sat over the course of about a year and a half for 19 different interviews with Mueller or someone of the team, and also said his early cooperation was particularly valuable because he was one of the few people with long-term and first-hand insight regarding events and issues under investigation by the SCO. And sort of related, that his cooperation might actually have led others to cooperate with the investigation who might not have otherwise done so.
Yes.
So that's the top level stuff. We do have some interesting tidbits, things that are in the memo, things that are technically in but are blacked out, that we can get to, but that's the top line.
Yeah, so let's talk about the most relevant parts and how much trouble Donald Trump is in. So partly the answer is a lot, and the other part of the answer is we don't know because it's blacked out. Okay, so 3 parts. One is his cooperation with the special counsel, so that's seems fairly straightforward, and that's not good news for Donald Trump. So the other one is another criminal investigation. Super interesting, but it's redacted. Right?
Why don't we bring up the next graphic while you talk through this so people can see the section that you're referring to?
Yeah, and the relevant parts totally blacked out. Okay, and then the third is an investigation so secret they won't tell you anything about it. They won't tell you if it's criminal, federal, state, what it's about.
Criminal, civil, having to do with something outside of the country, having to do with inside? Is it about his work with Turkey? Is it about Ukraine? Is it something purely domestic? We have no idea.
By the way, that's real. That graphic is real.
That's actually real.
Okay, that is their paragraph on what the third investigation is about. In other words, we do not want you to know.
This is the most amazing thing because you see that second investigation, they give you all the details on it, or at least identifying it. In the first, they do redact the specifics, but they at least let you know it's a criminal investigation. What would it take for the third to be fully redacted, where they don't want you to even know the nature of that investigation? I mean, it could be referencing one that we are familiar with that they don't want to identify as having a relation to Mike Flynn, or it could be something totally new.
So if it was just about the Russian interaction, well, that's the heart of the matter, and hence it would be bad enough without the 2 surprises that are in there. So what's the message that's being sent here? Partly that Flynn's case has just gone through the courts and this is when his sentencing is up. But partly Mueller's sending 2 different messages. One is, I don't want to tell you what my other cards are yet, but I've definitely got a couple of aces up my sleeve. I don't think you redact a deuce, or I got a 4 spades, don't show anybody, okay? And then the second thing he's doing, though, is since Trump is going around saying, hey, I might pardon people. I could pardon Manafort. That's definitely on the table. I could pardon people. This is Mueller, in essence, saying, look, I'm suggesting no prison time for people who cooperate. In other filings, he has said you should throw the book at him, whether it's Papadopoulos, where he had his infraction was really minor, and he's in prison now for 14 days, right? But even so, Mueller was like, this guy's a bad guy, and he did not cooperate in the way that he said he was going to. He gave media interviews in a way that was totally unsanctioned. You just throw the book at him. On Manafort, they are absolutely scathing. So Mueller and Trump to some degree are playing a game here. Who has more power? And Mueller's like, I can let you out of prison too, or a lot of times I could hand you off to state level where you cannot be pardoned by Donald Trump. So that's part of the undertone here in terms of what's going on. Now, in terms of the actual special counsel one, so what did Flynn do? So he had interactions with the Russian ambassador, Sergei Kislyak, and then he lied about it, and that's the crime. But what was the interactions about? See, that's very important. So there's two lies. One, he talked about, he did not mention that they had a conversation about how Flynn, before he came into office as the head of the National Security Council, asked the Russians to vote with Israel on a United Nations Security Council vote. That's not gonna send anyone to prison, okay? An American official was secretly helping Israel. Breaking news, that you'd have to lock up all of Washington, okay? The second one, though, was a discussion about lifting the sanctions on Russian oligarchs. Yeah, we have a winner. So that's the deal. Now the question is, did Flynn tell them? I mean, they say throughout this document, incredible cooperation, talk to us about who else on the transition team knew that he was talking to the Russians and authorized it. Gee, I wonder who that could be. So did Trump tell Flynn to tell the Russians, don't worry, we're gonna lift the sanctions? We don't know yet, it's redacted, right? But Mueller seems incredibly pleased with the information that Flynn gave him. So, and of course the degree to which it's specific is very important, and I can't prejudge it, but that's one of the mother lodes.
Yeah, I just want to briefly mention too, because I know some people who don't necessarily follow this much might not know exactly why a lie of this sort is important, whether it's Mike Flynn lying to the FBI during that investigation or Donald Trump lying about business ties in foreign countries or things like that. Like, why is that a big deal? Well, obviously lying to the FBI is literally a crime. It's been a crime for a very long time. But the issue with those sorts of lies is once you put it out there and you say that one depiction of reality is true, if you are talking with someone in a foreign country and you lie, the FBI doesn't immediately know that you lied to them, but that foreign power does know. And that theoretically gives them leverage over you, whether you're Mike Flynn or Donald Trump. If your depiction of reality is false, the FBI and potential investigators don't know about it, but a foreign power or some other intelligence service does know about it, and there is a threat of jail time if it were to come out, then that can be used to influence you, either directly related to the thing you were talking about or potentially something completely unrelated. That's the purpose of a lot of intelligence work, is to get that sort of influence. And it seemed like the inner circle of Donald Trump was willingly just throwing it out all over the place.
Yeah, one of my favorite parts is a quote in this document that says, Flynn, quote, also provided useful information concerning ... And then it doesn't tell you the rest.
They ran out of characters in that tweet.
So, look, we're getting closer and closer to the moment when Mueller finally shows his hand and goes, this is what I got. And then things will not be redacted.
Well, to someone they won't be redacted. It is entirely possible that we won't know. I mean, Whitaker, it seems, was put in to make sure that as little of his findings actually ever make it public possible.
Yeah, not buying it. There's no way that it stays permanently redacted. So they will.
Area 51.
A Democratic House can subpoena it. It'll go out in court records if Mueller actually gets to publish it. Even if he doesn't, it can be leaked, etc. They're not going to be like, oh, it turns out Trump's owned by the Russians. Oh, Whitaker fired me. Never mind, just burn the report.
I don't know, he's a pretty savvy guy.
Okay, I don't think that's how it's gonna work.
Okay.
By the way, Flynn is now the fourth to be sentenced in connection with this investigation, and there have been over 50 indictments. So sometimes we go to Trump rallies and Trump supporters say, well, they didn't get anybody, so what are they wasting their time for? 50 indictments, 4 sentences. Yeah, they got people already, let alone what's in the redacted part and what they're gonna do about Trump. I wanna leave you on this note on this issue though. I do remember Michael Flynn saying something about being tough on criminals and people who might have abused their power. And I wonder if the court should take this thing into account as they consider as sentencing. Let's take a look.
We do not need a reckless president who believes she is above the law. Lock her up. That's right. Yes, that's right. Lock her up. I'm going to tell you what. It's unbelievable.
It is unbelievable. I know the special counsel does not want him to go to prison, but if they did, that would have been compelling to play during sentencing. 2 easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.